Welcome to the Women in Vinyl podcast with Jen DiEugenio, founder of Women in Vinyl, and contributor Robin Raymond. This podcast facilitates conversations with those working in the vinyl record industry to educate, demystify, and diversify the vinyl community.
Thanks to our friends at Desert Records and Betty Benedeadly for the use of her song, Rite of the Dusty Trail. It's off her upcoming album, The Adventures of Mabel Carter, which is coming out February 2022. You can pre-order at desertrecords.us. If you're out there, Tarantino, that song and this record is waiting for you to use it. Today is episode 20 of the Women in Vinyl podcast. And we're starting to wrap up the year, so we thought it would be fun to do an Ask Us Anything, because we love and appreciate all of you who spend your time with us. So these topics are pretty much across the board, so it should be fun.
I love an Ask Me Anything. I think they're hilarious.
Yeah.
Nancy Sinatra did like one of the funniest ones I've ever seen. She was just like, hair tips, where she gets her nails did, like it was anything. It was so good. I loved it. She's iconic. So anyway,
that's actually a good segue into our first question, which is, how long have we been doing this podcast and what's been the most difficult thing about it? And that's from at The Surface Noise.
Well, we launched the podcast officially in March this year to coincide with Jen's dad's birthday.
Yeah.
Dad. And the most difficult thing, I mean, it's so easy. Wow. Hanging out with Jen weekly is my favorite thing, obviously. Some of my only human contact of the last couple of years. So that's been great.
Yeah. Keeping each other sane-ish.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to try and find, I guess, relevant stuff to keep you guys interested. Mm-hmm. It's hard to find bands and music. So again, if anybody wants to have their music featured, media at womeninvinyl.com. Thanks. I mean, scheduling has been, used to be a little bit of a challenge for both of us, but we kind of figured that out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think, we just, once we started doing what was comfortable for us, schedule wise and, setup wise, I think it became a lot easier.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tools, like Spreaker is what we use, and it's great. I mean, it's super easy. You don't need to know a bunch of technical stuff. I think the hardest part is probably the editing, and thankfully neither one of us do that.
Yeah.
So we have Ray, my husband. So, yeah.
I think that's been like, that's the most difficult thing, making sure that we're doing the damn thing and that people are liking what we're doing. So I feel like we are, but
yeah, because we just talk to each other. So if you guys don't tell us, then
we just keep doing that. And that's the best. Echo chambers forever. Our next question comes from at the real Rob Hammett. And do you organize your collection alphabetically by genre, a combination of both, etc.? Jen, I'll let you take this one because
if you listen to the episode before this one,
as we know, I DGAF when it comes to organizing my records. I don't care. I do not.
Robin's is just the mood. Wherever she puts it back.
Jen, you have a magnanimous dynamic collection.
Yeah, I'm on the opposite end of insanity.
Yes.
So, yeah, genre, alphabetical, chronological.
Oh.
And so yeah, so each band, so like Black Sabbath,
Yeah.
they're all in order that they came out. And then
where's that band from? I don't think I've ever heard of them before.
Well, and I think an interesting thing is some people might ask then, like, where's Ozzy? And
Yeah.
Ozzy comes after My Sabbath.
Oh, okay. So like in my collection, if I did my collection like yours, it would be Alexis on Fire and then Dallas Green.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Solo projects after the band.
Yeah, like if they're I think it can be kind of weird though, because like everybody's collection has these weird facets like that, because it's like not everybody is that way, but I feel like that makes sense in my brain for those two to be together.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like the band facilitated the solo project.
Exactly.
So that makes total sense to me. I appreciate that.
And then we have little mini crates of 7 inches. Someone I think really needs to work on some 7-inch storage. I think that would be great.
Hey, couple, we're looking at you. Might as well get into it.
But yeah, and 10 inches are also separated out, and box sets as well. So
do you have a section for picture discs too, or do those go into regular?
Those go into regular. Yeah.
I
feel like a lot of my picture discs are 10 inches actually. It seems like a lot.
Yeah. It's a funny size. And picture discs are so specific as I'm learning. But
to be announced later. Yeah.
TVA. Yeah. Another super secret project. My favorite. Okay, our next question is, this is from Danielle Quattromini, and she says, how can you tell if vinyl is an original pressing? Well, and that is a handy shout out to our buddies at Discogs.
Yeah.
So you can look at the catalog number that's in the dead wax usually. Sometimes you can tell by whether there's a barcode, because barcodes came in at a very specific time in the global retail sphere, and anything that doesn't have a barcode on the actual record jacket, it comes from a certain era too. So there's a couple different ways. And then there's label varieties. There might be different label colors, different fonts. So it's kind of, Discogs will be your best reference there to be able to understand what one you have scored the jackpot on.
Yeah, we should still do an episode or a discussion on Discogsing as well.
Discogsing, yes. Yeah. And adding things to Discogs. I love doing that. Yes. I love adding. I got to add a couple weird releases from my grandfather's record collection into Discogs, because I was just like, oh, this one isn't here. This is fun. And they were just like local bands and stuff that my granddad got on his radio show. So that was pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
This one's from my boss. My full-time job boss.
Yeah.
I say vinyls. Am I still welcome here? So yeah, shout out to Eric. There's actually an FAQ on the Furnace website about this, because our friends in Germany, they oftentimes say vinyls. Yeah. So yeah, I think that can be sort of a European thing. No judgment. I personally prefer the plural of vinyl as vinyl, but you know.
It makes me laugh. Especially when the youngers are asking, like, when will my vinyls arrive? And I'm like, oh, bless. To me, it's kind of just like a signifier that they're new to the scene, and that is kind of a welcoming point for me. So yeah, of course, everybody is always welcome.
Yes,
always. If We are the island of misfit toys. If nobody else wants you around, we want you around, even if you say vinyls. It's fine. Olivia Talent wants to know who is our favorite female group or artist.
That's tough. There are a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
Well, I can shout out I guess it was 2019. There was a Women of Doom comp that we supported through Blues Funeral and Desert Records that had a really great assortment of women in the doom genre. So people from like Windhand, Ruby the Hatchet, Frail, who's been we've showcased
we
showcased their
love
music. Yeah, I mean, but like I don't know, like I love En Vogue, so
hell yeah,
it's all across the board.
Oh my god, yeah. And we also both are worshipers at the Church of RuPaul, so there's that. My favorite female artist of all time is the sweet goddess Stevie Nicks. My mom wouldn't let me have it any other way, so thanks, Mom. But I also I have a lot of chicks in my catalog.
I mean, like
here.
Bikini Kill,
the Linda Lindas. Shout out to the Linda Lindas and my lathe homie Hocus Bogus out in California for making some sweet little lathe cuts for the Linda Lindas.
I recently watched a documentary on Alanis Morissette and her big 90s debut. Well, actually, it wasn't her debut. So, I mean, it reminded me how much I love that record and how like impactful it was at that time when I was growing up. I actually get turned on to a lot of pop music at work.
Hell yeah.
And so like I was catching myself really liking some of the Dua Lipa that was coming out.
Levi cut that record. Levi Sites, we love you. I mean, there's a lot of incredible Canadian women that I love. We've talked about Witch Prophet on here before. Shout out to my favorite local Canadian drag queen, Priyanka, who just released her country song yesterday.
Awesome.
And will be hosting the Canadian Country Music Awards. I think obviously that's a first time thing that the Canadian Country Music Awards are letting a drag queen host. So that's pretty awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we could do a whole entire episode about incredible women in music. Kenny on the G wants to know what's the most common male shit we encounter. I mean,
again, like the meme is what started it all. Like, how did that look? I've talked about, shopping at that record store where the guy assumed I didn't know what the Vertigo swirl was. So, I think things like that, people aren't considering how things may come across. And, that's the systematic stuff that a lot of people talk about, that it's built into how we interact. And that's what needs to change.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I fully back everything that you've said there. I mean, we don't, and maybe it's one of those things where we're not as conscious of it because we're just like, oh, this is our regular do. So,
yeah, I think Heath on that episode talked about it great. Being able to talk about the difference and how he's treated now is really interesting.
Yeah, totally. Weeks apart. Go back and check out episode 17 for our conversation with Heath. Let's see. Could you please tell the world one major artist did not and cannot delay global vinyl production at small batch? Thank you for opening that door.
Yeah. This is Ashley. She works at United Record Pressing. And yes, that's not, there are more things at play here. So, again, not to continue to refer back, but you should listen to all of our wonderful episodes. But check out the State of the Industry that we did with Katie Clove from Merge. We talk a lot about supply chain. Not a lot has changed. I don't think it's going to change for a little bit. So,
yeah. And also, I feel like it was easy for all the publications to just pile on with the magnitude of that release. So in order to kind of piggyback on the press that Adele is going to get for that release, I feel like it was maybe an easy in for them to just pile on, if that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, anybody that is in the know about record production understands that Adele and Taylor Swift did not jam up the old works. They also didn't press at every single record pressing plant in the known universe. So
yeah, we didn't press any. And
yeah,
like I said on our live, I think that most plants that would have the capability to press that, what people don't understand is that they're not going to put it on every single machine. No. I mean, we wouldn't. So I would assume other people wouldn't. You're running things, different things on different machines. So
yeah.
It's not like people are getting left out because of her putting out a record. I heard that because she put out clear records that, she took up all the clear and that's just, there's a compound to make the clear, and that's what is causing, we don't know when there will be more of it to be able to make more clear. And, she put out a ton of records, but that wasn't her decision. That was the label's decision.
And that's my biggest point about it. I would love if she was experiencing that kind of success as a total independent and just going to every single plant she needed to go to, just be like, hello, I'm Adele, and I need you to press 20,000 units of my record tomorrow.
I think even Ed Sheeran, I saw went on something and blamed her for it, and I'm like, what does he know? He doesn't know anything about how his records are made either.
No, Ed Sheeran definitely doesn't know where records are made, and let us put that in the correct box, which is Sony.
And he said that there were only 3 pressing plants in the world.
Yeah.
So I mean, right there,
exactly
it's yeah.
So I mean, and the thing is that it's Sony, and Sony has capacity at plants. And so they're using their dedicated capacity already at whatever plant for whatever release they're dedicating at that plant. It's not Adele going, oh, hey, I need this. Put me in front of all these other artists.
Right.
They had to have that record done and wrapped 6 months or 8 months in advance because they were trying to put it out on a certain weekend. So they backtracked. And again, to reference our State of the Union kind of episode with Katie Clove, she explains how you look at scheduling and creating a release calendar and all of the machinations that go into that figuring so that they can figure out when things need to be delivered. Because it's not just oh, hey, here's my record. As we've discussed many times, it's, oh, hey, here's my record. And now that needs to go to get lacquers cut. And then those need to get plated. And then test presses need to be happening. And then those test presses need to be approved. And then art and all of those things.
And for releases like that too, you have big box stores that are buying into certain allotments of that record. So, Target, for example, may say we need so many units and they want those units delivered by a certain date, or they may drop that contract. And, Walmart's the same, and Amazon, whatever. So, those are things that the plants are then having to take into consideration with Sony or whoever and saying okay, we have to get this amount done. It all comes down to scheduling, but then when you're thinking about scheduling, we're also running into the supply chain stuff. So that's where right now, it's safer to release a record and just put color vinyl. Don't be like, this is a specific color splatter, or whatever. I mean, I just got a release that was supposed to be clear with orange and red splatter. And it ended up being this creamsicle color, which, I mean, it's pretty, but, the sticker still says what it was. And so, I think like, while that's fine, I love those kinds of Easter eggs. I think for, everybody just consumer wise needs to understand that these are the kinds of things that people are up against, and just maybe be a little easier.
Well, and yeah, go easy on me. Ha! You're welcome. But I think we should frame it even more in a more of a positive way, and be like, this is what's possible when you look at how much time these parts take.
Mm-hmm.
So that they were able to execute 500,000 copies in that time frame. Like, maybe there's a way that we can talk to our homies at Sony and try and find out what the actual timeline on those deliverables was, because I would love to understand those parts, because my good friend Ryan cut the lacquers for Adele for this release, and he did 26 lacquers. Homies, 26 lacquers for that at Sterling Sound in Nashville. Love you, Ryan. But so I would love to understand that part of the side of it, so that we could show you guys like what the timing of that album actually was, because it, like, all of this hit the press in November 1, and I was like, yo, those records are already in the back.
Right.
Like, they're not
Yeah.
they're not actively being made right now. So
right. They've been at the distro. Like,
yeah, they been done already. She done already had hers.
Yeah.
So there's no way that the amount of stress that Adele was getting was justified. So thank you for that.
Prices are getting up there, causing me to cut back. That's from @CricketStep68. Well, yeah, I mean, I think this sort of goes into the supply chain issue.
Mm-hmm.
We have to raise prices. It's just the way that it is. And every single plant is doing it because every single PVC supplier is raising the prices, because just like anything else, as things get harder to get, it becomes more expensive. And so that is just trickling down to the consumer level. And unfortunately, it's just the way it is right now. I mean, the demand is making it should be a good thing that people want records like this. And
I think we also need to look at the global economy too, and understand that we're trying as humans to undo some of the badness that we've done to the old planet. Mm-hmm. So now there's like more legislation, taxes, climate change considerations coming in, and usually that's going to come in as like a tax or some sort of carbon offset, something. So because PVC comes from oil, we still need to be cognizant of that. So I mean, it's not just the old record company trying to give you a gouge or whatever, but it's also the last 2 years have taught us that people need to make a certain amount of money to be able to live in this crazy world. So if you're going to subscribe to, everybody being allowed to live on the planet and feed themselves and go do a job that they like, maybe that's pressing records, maybe that's being a mastering engineer, maybe that's working in production, maybe that's in assembly, like whatever part it is, like all of that, as we've illustrated numerous times, all of the people that are involved in creating a record, and there's numerous hands that touch your records, unless you get records with me, and then it's just my hands. But still, there's going to be costs associated with all of that kind of stuff, and like, if you want cheap records, buy used records.
Totally.
I mean, maybe not like used records on the secondary market at Discogs, but like, go to your record store and see what they've got in the bins.
Yeah,
like there's ways to get a bitchin' record collection for not much money.
Totally.
I live in the used bins. I love those things. So yeah, I mean, maybe, and also cutting back is not the worst thing in the world,
right?
Really.
Yeah.
Like, buy the records you love so that you have a collection that you listen to.
Totally. Yeah. Like, no filler, just a Killer
all
collection.
killer, no filler. Any women in vinyl that we work with / can highlight in Berlin from Press. Ooh, the Germans. I mean, I love Germany, love and appreciate the Germans. I don't know of any women-owned record stores in Berlin specifically. But any of our Fraus out there that want to get in touch, we would love to expand the Women in Vinyl family to include anyone in Germany, in Austria, in the Netherlands. Maybe the mighty Katie Tavini in the UK. Maybe she knows some of those people. So we don't, but get at us if you do, because we would we'd love to show everybody else about them.
Yeah, and I was looking up, I believe White Rabbit is a record store that is in that area.
I mean, maybe we'll save it for our trip to Germany where we do a fact-finding mission and we meet everybody in Germany.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, message us. That's, we're trying to expand our
global understanding.
Totally.
Always. Yeah.
And resources, yeah.
Yeah, great question. We appreciate that. Thank you for thinking outside of the continental North Americas.
We have an anonymous question.
Oh.
Ooh. What do you feel about vinyl subscription series? Are there any that you like? So I was a super early adopter of Vinyl Me Please when they first started. The guys over there actually asked me to draw one of the artwork pieces.
Oh, cool.
But I didn't do it because I wasn't inspired. It sounds so snobby, but I wasn't.
Hey, that's the design card that you can play when you are a designer, lady. It's totally fine.
But yeah, the guys that run that are really nice. I didn't actually subscribe for very long because it just wasn't stuff that I wanted. And it was and again, like, my collection is not just anything. It's things that I want to listen to, that I love. And so I just didn't want to have a bunch of like random stuff. I mean, I appreciate it if you're looking to get into new music, and I think one of the things that they've started to do is have offshoots of like genre-based stuff, so that maybe is curating things a little bit more. But I feel like I'm almost my subscription, I guess, service type thing is like record labels I love. Yeah. So it's like if I know like El Paraiso is putting something out or Riding Easy's putting something out, I don't even have to listen to it. I just buy it because I just know that they've curated something, that a sound that I'm gonna like. Yeah. So I think that is sort of an interesting maybe way to look at it.
I did like the offerings of sounds on vinyl. And obviously like Henry's associated with that, so I gave it a little bit more of a chance than others.
No bias or anything.
I'll own that. I will own a complete and total bias. And I'm also trying to find a casual $4 million so I can buy his house. But
right.
Sign up at womeninvinyl.com for hit up the Patreon anytime.
We'd like a headquarters.
Yeah. Let us move into the Hollywood Hills. It would be delightful. Especially because it's got enough room for both of our record collections already.
And Amanda's and Jet's.
Yeah, exactly. Bunker. Let's see. David in
North Carolina.
You're going to say that's North Carolina. Yeah. I was trying to think of like another place that might be NC. And I was like, probably not. OG versus reissue preference. Jen, take it away.
For me, it depends. I mean, if the OG is going to cost me hundreds and hundreds of dollars, I'm fine with a reissue. Unless, of course, it's Black Sabbath, which in that case I buy them all, so it doesn't matter. I save up with my allowance like a child and buy the one that I want.
I need one of those. An allowance, not a child.
No children. No. But yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the artist, and what the reissue situation looks like. So, yeah. What about you?
I feel like it depends on how much you like love the record.
Mm-hmm.
Do you already have a copy? Did you miss the boat on the OG?
Right.
Is it millions of dollars? Is it like a grail situation, or is it like something where, yeah, you could like stop getting coffee for a little bit and treat
Right.
yourself, you know?
Right.
I've again, to reference my Discogs want list, I've got one of those in the want list, and I'm like just twiddling my little fingies because I'm like, maybe this is the year that I buy it for myself for Christmas.
Mm-hmm. My want
I,
list is like that too. It's like I
yeah,
might have a record, but then you'll see it again in my want list, and that's because I'm like, well, I would
but I
like
want
to
this
have
one.
this one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, like maybe you have a reissue, and then maybe that maybe that opens the door where you're like, ooh, I would really like to have. And I'm going to go farther, not just the original pressing, but maybe another country pressing.
Yeah.
Another country original pressing. Like
Or maybe you prefer a mastered by someone if the
yeah,
reissue is remastered.
totally. What else we got here?
Scott Wolf. Scott Wolf, 71, had graciously taken his time to give us some questions. So we'll pick a
Love
couple
Scott.
of these and answer them.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. On the remaster train, why remasters and reissues are important
We
or
sort of
not?
just, yeah, we sort of
Yeah.
talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, reissues are always kind of a fun place to be. Maybe not in these specific vinyl crunch times. Maybe there's not a burning desire to have a reissue of a certain band, but maybe now as we're changing quantities and looking at different catalog type things. I mean, as a collector, I like a variant. So I would, if they change the label or there's something different about the record, like I'll give it a good hard think about buying
Right.
it. But, does that make it completely necessary? Maybe not. But is it an access point for another person to maybe get into that band with that really credible record? That's where I think like reissues are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what we're all here for, right? Is to like get into records, whatever that looks like.
How to spot a bad pressing and what can be done to salvage it.
Oof.
I think it
Well,
depends. I mean, if it's just a bad pressing, then honestly, there's not much you can do.
and a bad pressing can be numerous and various, right? So whether that's sleeving scratches or dust on the back of the stamper and on the mold, and that's manifesting as dimples and audible pops beyond what the pops and clicks that we love.
Yeah.
Um,
Because I mean, some of those are superficial.
yeah,
So, I mean, it depends how crazy you want to get with it. I mean, if it's scuffs from a sleeve and it doesn't sound, then all right. Does it matter to you and your listening experience?
yeah.
I mean, if it's a truly bad pressing where there's pops and ticks and things are just that can't be cleaned off, then I mean, there's not really anything.
Other than sometimes contacting the label or the
Not the plant.
artist.
Not the
Yeah,
plant!
there's
Exclamation points.
yeah, you can never. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, and sometimes I wonder if that's why it's hard to understand sometimes where things were made because they're just like, no, we're not dealing with this.
Yeah, I mean,
um,
recently I've had a couple people reach out. Honestly, it wasn't even about a bad pressing. They missed out on a pre-order.
mm,
And so they messaged or called to see if we could sell them one. And I'm like, we don't do that here.
no,
So,
no, we can't.
yeah,
Yeah,
you can't, the plant doesn't have stuff to sell. And honestly, it's not ours to sell. So,
yeah. Well, and that's the thing. So like, if it's like a shifted spindle point or like a coining thing, or it kind of depends on what the issue is of the pressing. Like if it sounds bad and it's like distorted and like that kind of thing, always get in touch with the label. It might just be that you got a rogue copy from the end of the stamper life, and they'll be happy to exchange it for you. I mean, a bad pressing is specific to the record. It's not a dented corner of a jacket.
Right.
So it's there's limits to what labels will consider as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, salvaging it, that's a hard thing. Sometimes there are things that you can do, and mostly it's cleaning and anti-static, but sometimes there's nothing to be done. Oh, keeping your records safe when transporting them during a move. I'm a big fan of bubble wrap.
Yeah.
This depends on the size of your collection too.
Yeah.
So you guys had to move your collection, Jen, and what did you guys do for that?
We have these boxes that we've used a couple times now. I was just looking it up. They're BCW supplies. Mm-hmm. So they are like reinforced banker boxes that are the size of records. And then they have handles, which is great. And then the lid on them has a little bit extra give. So if you did need to stack one on top of the other, it's not smashing your other one. Mm-hmm. They aren't the cheapest, but we've used them twice now to move, and you can fold them back down and reuse them, and they're amazing. So awesome. I would highly recommend those. I hear U-Haul is making some, but I don't know anyone that's used them.
I've seen them on the Instagrams a few times with people moving their collections. I moved mine in crates mostly because I had a lot of crates.
Mm-hmm. And some of those shipping companies, like we did use pods when we moved from Nashville. Mm-hmm. And those, because we didn't have a place immediately, we were able to store in like a temperature controlled setting when it got here. So, I mean, again, it's pricey, but so is your collection. So
yeah. I mean, and that's one of the good things with, shout out to our friends Discogs again. If you're maintaining a good inventory of your collection, you always want to have a good understanding of what you've got in case things go poorly, and you need to maybe replace those records.
Oh, I can't even think about it.
Yeah, don't think about it. It makes me sweaty. I don't like it. There's also, I mean, depending on the size of your collection, just put that sweet little crate in your front seat, put a seatbelt and some pillows around it, and you're good. Be careful with your gear as well. Take your cartridges off your tone arms when you're moving, just in case the clip decides to dislodge, so that you are not toasting your needles. Yeah, I guess that goes into insuring your investment as well.
Yeah, you should take out separate insurance for it. And yes. Discogs will help you with that because you'll have the median value of them. Mm-hmm. So you can, PDF that, save that as a claim, but you should insure it separately. Because otherwise, from what I understand, what I understand, if you insure them as part of your home insurance or renter's insurance, it groups into all media. So that means that like if, you had a fire or something, your record player, your TV, everything, books would be included in that. So you're not going to get the full value of your collection.
Yeah. Does numbering matter?
Nope. It's funny because I feel like before I worked in manufacturing, I never thought about it, how it's actually done. Like
1 of 500 kind of deal.
Yeah. No. I think it matters maybe for cuts, Robin, because you're doing them one at a time, but like for pressing plants, like, I mean, those just come in a box and they are assembled however. Nobody's taking the first press record off the press, cooling it separately, putting it through separately. Like it's literally just like the jackets come out of a box, they're numbered, everything gets numbered and sent. So it's not really, they don't matter, but It's cool. I mean,
yeah, I mean, that limited edition thing is always the thing, right? Getting the most out of your listening experience. Well, that is very subjective. And I feel like there's a multitude of answers depending on who you're talking to and how much money they have spent in their listening experience versus whether they're really excited about their record or whether it's just something that they do on autopilot as well. Because the first time that I put on Ultramono from Idols, I was jamming out. I didn't even care. And that was in Nick Townsend's living room after I bought it at Amoeba. And I was like, this is the best. Totally didn't care. Yeah.
It sort of goes back to last episode when we were talking about headphones or not. I mean, some people really love headphones. Yeah, turn it up, play it loud.
Definitely play it loud. Discogs, pros and cons. I feel like we've given a lot of pros.
Yeah.
Pretty much all pros. And not sponsored, but we're open to it.
This is true.
Discogs, get at us. You know us, you love us. Come on. Yeah, I feel like there's not a lot of cons with Discogs. I feel like we will do a Discogs specific episode one day.
I think the thing that can cause cons for people is just that it's community run, really. So a lot of stuff just has to be handled between you and the person if you're purchasing.
Yeah.
For me, sometimes with, again, my research side of things, the information is in some cases wrong. So I have to try to resubmit that, and that process can be a little arduous. And not everybody loves adding something to Discogs like Robin does. Sometimes people hate that process. So.
It's a lot. Yeah. It very much is the doorway for archiving, which gets me excited on a whole nother level.
One thing that was good that they did, but also frustrating, was to remove all the unofficial and bootlegs.
Yeah.
So it's a little frustrating because I still would like to. I mean, you can still add them to your collection, but it's harder to sort of find some of that stuff or, add information to maybe how it was created, which I still find interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good thing, but also kind of annoying.
Yeah, for sure. And then understanding dead wax, because there's more than numbers in there. So dead wax, if you are confuzzled by that term, you can go back to our first tech talk, Vinyl 101.1 and Vinyl 101.2. And you can learn about what dead wax is. The dead wax is the area kind of by the label in between where the music ends and the lead out ends, and then you have the label. And in there, we put catalog information, we put side information. Sometimes you'll have who mastered it. Sometimes we have goofy little things that we put in there. Sometimes bands want hilarious inscriptions. Sometimes they're not hilarious.
Sometimes there's parts numbers or plant numbers.
Yeah. There's all kinds of identifying features in the dead wax. And sometimes that changes from original pressing to reissue. You can tell if things have been recut because there's signifiers there too. So that generally will mean that the test pressing has been rejected and you need to do another one. So yeah, there's lots of things to be learned from the dead wax. So that was, you asked us, we told you. You asked us things and we gave you some information. That is how we do this podcast. So that's exciting. Yeah.
And if you missed out, shoot us a message. media@womeninvinyl.com.
DMs are always open.
Yep.
So is the email. We'd love to hear from you always. We have numerous and various episodes coming up in 2022. I can't believe that we are closing in on the end of yet another pandemic year. Wowie. But yeah, thank you for chugging along with us for 20 plus episodes. On our last episode, you will have got an earful of our sponsors. Other record labels, Selector, Koppel, Eargasm, Glowtronics, Groove Washer, and some other incredible sponsors that are adding to our bundles. So yeah, we want to thank all of them for everything that they have given to us this year. Hit up the Instagram to see an in-depth feature on each and every one of them, because you'll see them. Check out womeninvinyl.com for the past episodes, the store, the job board, and the library of resources that is growing. Don't forget to like and subscribe and give us a review on your favorite podcast delivery method. You can also contribute to furthering our mission at patreon.com/womeninvinyl, where you'll find all the B-sides, the deep cuts, and the amazing extras, and help us start a not-for-profit to further the demystification, the education, and the infiltration of more women and non-binary identifying humans into the vinyl making space. Bye, November. We'll see you in December. Thanks, buds.
This episode has been brought to you by Women in Vinyl and Red Spade Records. Thank you for listening. Please remember to subscribe, and you can always contact us directly by visiting www.womeninvinyl.com.